I was talking to my sister the other day and we were catching up because, we haven't talked in a while. And whenever we catch up, I don't know, we talk about a lot of things. And it was in particular like a different kind of catch up because I think this was the first time we'd called since I'd moved into my new place, moved up here to Seattle, started a new job, everything like that, right? So we were talking about how I've been settling in, about all the new things that's been going on, about how my work's been, about how if I've been making friends, what I do after work, what I do at work, blah, 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 blah. All this standard stuff. And as I said, one of the things we talked about is what do you usually do like after work? What do you do on the weekends? What's like your go-to fun time stuff that you do, right? And I was talking about some of the new hobbies that I picked up, about things I like to do with friends. Some things were surprises to her, some things weren't surprises to her. But one of the things that I mentioned was, yeah, I actually haven't, when I've been up here, haven't really been playing video games. Like, I don't think I'm really a video game person anymore. And her reaction was like, What? 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 You not playing video games? That's like your whole identity. So I'm paraphrasing here. I don't think she actually said that word for word, but she basically said something among the lines of that. And naturally, that was like funny, right? Because, I understand where she's coming from. I understand, like, her perception of me when she and I were still at home together. That was my identity. I was like just video games and always wanting to play video games and video games this, video games that, because that was, I don't know, what I like to do all my time with and what I like to talk about and just what I enjoyed. So that was like her perception of me, right? But I don't know. Actually, after the call and a little bit after she said that, I was thinking more about it. And of course, I don't fault her for that. As I said, it makes sense why she thought that. But it made me a little sad and just a little peeved as well. Because I was like, that's not my whole identity. That shouldn't be just what my identity is. It shouldn't just be associated with one thing. And I don't think she was doing that, but more of she was surprised that I wasn't associated with something anymore. She couldn't think of me as, oh yeah, my brother loves just playing video games. That's like his thing, right? And for me, I felt like I wasn't just a mold. I'm not a mold. I'm not just, some kind of cookie mold, where you pour in the cookie dough and it makes a shape of a cookie, or some kind of other baking thing. The things where you put in Play-Doh or something and it makes a particular shape. I'm not a mold. I don't think people are molds, but that's how we just characterize people. Like, I do the same thing with other people, and I've realized this more, that I don't actually like that when people do that of me, because I don't think I am just this or just that. And even if they put two things, I think me as a person is multifaceted, and I have a lot of different things that I want people to know me as. I want people to know me as the person and the personality, and not just the one particular thing, right? And that's how I want other people to think of me. But I've realized it's so hard, and this is why I can't fault anybody for doing this, why I can't fault my sister for doing it, is that we do this of other people. So I don't think it's just also on the hobbies that someone does. It's also these molds we put on the personalities of people. Here's another example. I was talking to one of my friends, and I was calling her, and I was telling her about some shows that I was watching recently. And one of them was a K-drama show. And her reaction to it was like, "What? You're watching a K-drama?" Again, it's paraphrasing. But she was so surprised that I was watching a K-drama. She was like, "I didn't think of you as a K-drama person." This same friend, I was telling her about a particular weekend that we had, me with some of my friends here in Seattle, where we went to a nightclub. And she was like, "I never thought of you as a nightclub person." And again, these are all fair characterizations. The nightclub one, even more so, because I knew this friend for a while, a period of time when I was still in college, and I never went to the nightclub with her. I never went to a nightclub when I was in college, like at college, right? So it makes sense why, based on prior evidence, on what they know of me, why they just assume, yeah, you're not that kind of person. That's why I'm surprised, right? But then I think the part that I don't like is then you get put into this mold. And when I feel like it's just the surprise and it's just the expectation of someone, right? I'm okay with the surprise. It makes sense. It's when something is not against your expectation. But I feel like sometimes the expectations dictate how you think of people. When she thought that I would never go to the club or watch K-dramas, it was affecting how she thought of me as a personality, right? And when my sister was thinking, yeah, I'm so surprised that you're not playing video games anymore because I always thought of you as a video game person, I feel like these are two different ways of reduction, of putting people in molds. And when you put people in molds, when you consider people as molds, you're not allowing these other facets to be part of your view, your picture of their identity. My sister couldn't conceive of me as a person without the video games. And my friend couldn't conceive me as a person with these particular traits. It's not even a trait. It's just the ability to, or the want to go to like a nightclub or to watch K-dramas, right? And it just is reductive, I feel like. But the whole point, I think what I'm saying is, as I think about it more, this is how you and how I always group friends as well. It's just how I think, how you know people, right? When you're quickly trying to know who a person is, you're going to assign character traits to them. And this is most useful for recollection, right? I do this really often, actually, when I'm talking to people. I'll be like, we're talking about a particular subject, maybe about cars, right? And then when I want to bring some of my personal experience into this, I probably, if I'm not into something, like I'm not really into cars, an easy way for me to bring my personal experience into it is to then be like, oh, I know a friend who's really into cars. I associate certain aspects with certain friends, right? And I think that's okay. But I think the trouble is when that then dominates their personality. And I think that happens to me sometimes. Sometimes I really associate one thing with one friend. And that's just how that's just how I like think of them, right? When somebody says like this person's maybe a mutual friend that we both know, I think a common instinctual response that I do would be like, oh, that's the guy who does this, or the guy who likes this, or the guy who's into this, or the girl who does this, or no, blah 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 blah, right? You have something that's associated with them, and that's just like when you introduce someone new like that, you're assigning that attribute as part of their identity. And then the people you're introducing the friend to, these people that are being introduced for the first time to this person, they're naturally going to use that to build their new identity of this person that they're meeting. And the danger that I think we fall is we just then latch onto that as like a base part of the identity, which is why I think my sister, she knew me for so long as the video game person that it actually became a core part of her view of my identity. So when that was gone, I think it really surprised her and really made her rethink like, how do I know this person, right? And I feel like I do the same thing when I have an association with a friend and then that association is gone because they've moved on. They've changed as a person. And it's unfair to them, right? Maybe this is good. It's like an evolution of them, but I feel like it was unfair to them before to just have this particular association and to never really think of them past it. And I think we do these of the people that we're not familiar with. I think that's why we have these associations. We know we meet so many people, we learn of so many people, and you have to make these associations to have quick recollections, quick indexing of who this particular person is. If you want to like quickly retrieve, like as I've talked about before, a person's character profile and to know who they are, you're going to think about the one or two most influential or most notable things about them, right? And it's only the people that you actually talk to more where you actually know so many different things about them, that you have so many different notable things you can assign to them, that you start to think of them as notable people. You start to think of them as just the people themselves instead of just the associations. And this is what I want to make a clear distinction of. The associations are not bad. This is how you, and I think this is how we always introduce people, right? You say like, oh, he's my friend from work. Oh, he's my friend I know from here. He's a person that I met from here. You have to have some kind of connection to introduce someone. This is like a part of their identity when they're being introduced to someone new. And that's okay. It's about not letting that dominate your own view of the person, right? And I think we naturally do that when we know a person better. When we get to know a person better, we talk to them more, we learn more about their personality, what they like to do. You build out the character profile. And I think the difficulty that I want to highlight and that I realized when my sister and my friend said these things was, I think people get burrowed in, get stuck into these characters, these traits of people, and that is just part of a person's identity. And I think people are just so much more than that, that I really wish when you actually know someone well enough, that shouldn't be giant stickers, giant parts of the only parts, restrictive parts of their identity. They should be the associative markers that you use to introduce people to quickly recollect. But if you actually care about someone, if you actually know someone and are close to someone, you should know them more as the person and not as these core traits.